computer.
And
Okay, so we are going to call to order the PRCAC Community Advisory Meeting for February 16th at 7:03 p.m. First thing I have is I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll give you a motion to approve the agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Next, we have approval of previous meeting minutes. Thank you, Brian. We are approving the December and January meeting minutes.
So moved.
I second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Brian, could you go ahead and get those sent off to
Yes.
the county for me?
Oh, PDF them, do that.
Awesome. Next, we have correspondence. And we actually have a couple of correspondence. We're going to start with, first, we received a email from Ellen Roth with concerns on clear cutting of trees and property work that is being done in Point Roberts. Concerned about gale force winds coming through and people having their property properly maintained, and requesting that possibly we look into a vacancy tax for the county to use to tend to unkept properties. The next we had was a email from Mark Robbins. There's been some emails with the executive regarding use of the TDD fund and the fuel tax revenues and how they are used. The response from Sat Paul Sadhu was basically stating that we can't change the 18th Amendment. But as Mark looked in further, realizing it's not the 18th Amendment, that it is a correction or change or alteration to RCW 8247,
Yep.
which actually states how those funds are used. And Mark forwarded to us the original request for that change that had been done previously, and asking that, you know, we look into trying that again, because it was in 2014, that memorandum.
Yeah,
So if anyone would like, we can actually add that to new business at the end.
yeah, that was the one I've got is the one that was attached from Chris Quinn
Yeah,
to Saturday.
yeah.
Okay,
So do we want to add that to the new business on the agenda for today?
So,
yeah, sounds right. Do we have to vote on that?
We just vote to make an amendment to the agenda.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Okay, everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that is,
Yes.
oh, sorry. We also did receive a response from Suzanne Milner regarding the reappointment of Bill, Brian, and Prakash, letting us know that they have been reappointed for another 2 years, and that since some of the terms before were only partial terms, that these will count as first term.
Yeah.
So I was not aware of that if you do a partial term, it doesn't count.
No, it's
Brian's laughing because he knows that's why because I did a partial term, and this is the
did
end
he
of,
do a partial term?
no, I did.
Oh, sorry.
I did a partial term, so my understanding was because I did a partial term, that counted as a full term. So that means this is my second term and I'm coming to the end, but that actually means that my first one didn't count.
It's like filler that goes in sauce.
So,
That's what, all right?
yeah, okay, we can discuss that one later. So that's the end of our correspondence. Now we have our first, yes, Prakash?
Alison, there was also correspondence with the WTA, but I can cover that.
Oh,
when we
yes,
get
I'm
done.
sorry about that. Prakash, can you fill us in on that WTA?
Yeah, I think we have that on the agenda for later, but
Oh, do you want to just move it to that?
Yeah.
Is that G,
Yeah,
WTA ban?
yeah, the
That's right.
WTA ban and the correspondence. I was thinking that was for later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that okay with you, Prakash?
Yep.
Okay,
Just like-
we'll do that correspondence there.
When you see these,
So our first public
Yeah.
comment. Does anyone have anything for our first open public comment? Any concerns, questions, or things that you would like us to talk about?
Considered things for them.
If you can raise your hand or unmute yourself. Okay, seeing none.
Oh,
We're
I'm
good.
just slow. I'm just.
Oh,
slow.
sorry. Okay, yes, Lee?
I'm sorry. I don't know how to raise my hand.
Okay, so just Lee Morehouse?
Yes. I just want to make an announcement that I've been working with PrEP on and off regarding the communication issues on the point in low-level emergencies. And on February 28th, we are going to attend something called Everbridge, something that Bainbridge has instituted. And it's, as long as the internet is going and phones and everything else, it's a way to to make communication possible on all kinds of levels. So we're quite excited about it, and I just wanted to bring it to PRCAC's attention.
Thank you. Yeah, I missed the last couple prep meetings, so thank you for that. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, the first item we have is drainage master plan to include Maple Beach seawall. Brian, do you want to start on our, we haven't heard anything yet update?
Yeah, sure, I can do that. We haven't heard anything yet from the county regarding the drainage master plan. As far as their request for qualifications that they are to be putting out. The other part of this, so we don't have an update beyond that on the drainage master plan. However, and I'll switch over to Allison here. Alice and myself did meet with a Maple Beach group regarding their seawall. And you're up.
So Brian and myself met with a few of the homeowners down in Maple Beach regarding the seawall. Just because we've been finding different funding opportunities through Fish and Wildlife and other groups. Because in 2020, 2021, Fish and Wildlife did a House bill, which amends for when you go to repair or build a seawall or protection of any sort, the order in which you need to do it, which starts with the natural soft shore protection and then increases from there, similar to what was done in Birch Bay. And because of that, there's now funding opportunities. So we met with a few of the people in Maple Beach just to find out if, this is something that they would be interested in having down in Maple Beach, because the last thing we want to do is come up with an idea without discussion, and then have people, chasing us down with pitchforks. So I think what we came out of that with is that they are very open to it, restoring the beach to the way it was, and very similar to the private road. So our next step would be to have some town halls, talking to more people in the community, more people down in Maple Beach, while we on the backside are looking into the different programs and things that are out there and make sure that we meet the qualifications prior to going to the county to ask them to actually request the funding. Dotting our I's, crossing our T's, and even to the point of making sure we actually answer every single question on the funding requests, so that the county is just basically having to file the paperwork after verifying our work.
And along that line, I spoke with Lisa Kaufman with the Northwest Straits Foundation, and Bob Warner with RCO.
Yep.
And they both were of the opinion that there was money to be found and used. And that the first step is to have an engineering assessment done. And she recommended, Lisa Kaufman recommended 4 different firms. So I think the next step would be for us to request funding from the county for
an
the
assessment,
assessment.
engineering assessment.
and so in order to do that, we probably need to rate those people and ask them to tell us what their fees would be like.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, this is, again, gonna be one of those projects very similar to drainage that, we're looking at multiple years, but we have to start somewhere and get the ball rolling.
Mhm.
It's possible that the drainage master plan would address some part of this.
Yes,
It
yes.
certainly would make total sense that way, until we actually get to go, till we see the proposal from the county. We won't be able to speak to that, but that is what I certainly would encourage the county to do, because it, from an engineering standpoint, makes total sense. It is a drainage issue, even though it's coming from the Boundary Bay.
Yeah.
So,
And it is the location of an outlet.
yes, exactly.
There's an outflow through the seawall.
Output right through the sea.
Right through the
Yeah,
seawall.
through the seawall, and we also have, the drainage plan itself is. Certainly, I'm gonna encourage it to be as broad as possible, because just the groundwater level and all of that, isn't it, is affecting all of this.
Mhm.
And directional flow and all that, so, I think. Not that this necessarily has to be part of that, that is to say, not that they need to wait on their work because of the drainage master plan. But they do, it should be addressed in it, and it may well be something that comes out of the master plan, even if maybe it's a little bit ahead itself. As far as, it should be one of the projects, I think, that comes out of it, because it is an issue. And anyway, yeah.
Well, that might be partly, in the next conversation with, Jim and Brian at Public Works.
Yes.
Is asking, since there is an outflow that, is underneath the seawall and such, would it make sense to address these actually at the same time?
But even more fundamental, even without the outlet,
Mm,
the water comes over the seawall, where does it sit?
yeah,
So then that's the natural question about
The drainage.
the drainage.
Yeah,
Okay, so we got here, now what are we gonna do with all of this? Well, we gotta find a way to drain it.
goes down the answer.
Yeah, well, I've seen it sit.
Yeah, it goes down.
I drove down there and stood in the middle of it, saying, oh geez, I wonder where this is gonna go.
Yeah,
so, and the request, Maple Beach, group that we did speak to. Did say that it would be best, late spring, early summer to do any, community meetings.
yeah.
Just so that there's more people, around and available to attend. So I will,
Right.
maybe start trying to figure out what some dates are, making sure that we're not hitting Canadian long weekends, and make that proposal at our next meeting of a few dates.
Yeah.
The next is broadband, Prakash.
Yeah, I did not have any new updates this time from last meeting. I think what Bob Hillman had told us, the decision date for the application that the county along with PointNet had made for state funding is end of this month. So as far as I know, we're waiting for that decision. I don't know if
Okay.
Bob's in the room.
No, Bob
Yes.
is not in attendance. I don't see him online either.
Yeah, so I'll just wait for that and then I'll ping them on where we are.
Sounds good. Next would be Anel, Night Sky.
Well, we're making some progress, slow but sure. A number of us are going to Delta on Saturday, where the Delta mayor is having a bit of a town council. And our intention is to raise the question of Delta light pollution standards and policies, and ask for their collaboration and cooperation with our efforts to minimize light pollution. And we're in touch with the owner of the property at Tyee and Gulf, seeking to continue the project that was started before COVID, to put screens that redirect and minimize the emission of the light from each of those fixtures. When that project was first begun, the devices were available online for $2.87. And now they're $10 each. So the cost of the project has gone up fourfold. But I imagine that we could probably garner the labor so that if we could get the owner to fund and I don't know, we might be able to stand at the corner of Gulf and Tyee and at nighttime and take up collection for the purchase of the products that would screen the lights. We'll talk about all of that. And then we're also talking to at least one of the property owners whose property contributes quite a bit of light pollution, who has indicated a willingness to shelter his lights and make them motion sensitive. So we're making some good progress.
Okay, sounds good. The next item is the unfilled at large committee positions. Thank you, everyone. Bill started this process for us to create our letter to the community to request people apply for our 2 empty positions, and then we all kind of jumped in there to make it a little smaller. So I will quickly read it, and then we will vote to approve it, to then send it out to the community. We will send it to Pat Grubb. We will send it to Posty Post,
Right.
Next Door, everywhere else. So I'll just quickly, the Point Roberts Community Advisory Committee, PRCAC, communicating the voice of our community to the Whatcom County Executive and County Council. Sending your comments or questions to prcac.comment@gmail.com. The Point Roberts Community Advisory Committee, PRCAC, is looking for community members to be at-large members on the committee. The PRCAC represents the Point Roberts community to the Executive and Whatcom County Council. It is the function of the committee to listen to the concerns, issues, and suggestions of the community, to synthesize all the input and provide solution or directions to the Executive and County Council. Recently, we have presented the executive Sat Paul Sadhu with a document outlining some of the more urgent challenges we have addressed as a committee and our direction. He has expressed faith in the PRCAC, and we will continue to build on that future. Come help us build Point Roberts' future. Become part of the PRCAC and part of the deliberative process. Bring your ideas, your energy, and add your voice to our community's future success and sustainability. And then there will be a link to apply to Whatcom County to be one of the positions. So I will make a motion to approve. Our letter is written to send.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that passes. So we will get that out shortly, and to Pat and all of the others, so that we can, have a couple more hands-on people to do this. Next is regular meeting with the county. We have yet to receive a response from any of the council members. I did send it to our 2 at-large members, as well as Ben Ellenboss. We did receive a response from Sat Paul. He is out of the country, but will be making a date and time to come meet with us in March. So I will follow up with him to see when that will be and continue to try and get together with
All right.
the council members. The next thing is the OSS training. Brian, do you want to do that, or would you like him to?
Well, you are our OSS expert by.
My OSS training?
Yeah.
Covert training we're doing? Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we are going to be having, sponsoring Whatcom County Health Department. Will be coming to do OSS classes here at the community center. I'm just trying to find it.
April 15th,
April 15th.
Tax day, how appropriate.
actually.
We will be putting out a letter that, from Whatcom County Health Department. It will have links for you to be able to sign up. It is a first come, first serve. They only have 50 spots.
50 spots, okay.
Available, or was it that he wants a minimum of 50?
It was, I think 50 to 100.
Okay, so yeah, minimum 50 people, maximum 100. The great thing about coming and taking this class through the Whatcom County Health Department, not only do you get to learn about your septic system, but it does allow you to then apply to Whatcom County to get discounts on your future septic pumping.
Wow.
And if you have your regular inspection done by somebody who's certified. If I remember correctly, the credit for a septic pumping is like $100. Yeah, so it is a worthwhile class. One, it can save you money on your inspections and your pumping, but two, it's very informative to understand how your septic system works and how you can properly maintain it so that you don't have possible failures.
So Ally, one more time, how do you sign up for the class?
So it is part of the Whatcom County Health Department flyer that we will be sending out. Has the link to go online to the Whatcom County website to sign up.
And the
Sure.
locale is,
It's going to be here at the community center in the larger.
then we won't be able to host 100.
I was told by the Point Rivers Parks Board that the capacity is 100.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, I'm glad to hear that.
So that's what I was informed of the capacity.
Okay.
Okay, that's kind of laughable, but when are you going to post this to the public?
We will be posting it. I will be sending it out either this evening or tomorrow. I'm just going to find the flyer that he sent to us, and I will be sending it out.
Thanks, Ally.
And I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna just actually maybe do a refresher, because it'll go in the we'll ask for it to go in the newspaper.
Okay.
We'll ask for it to go on the online edition of the EPB, but I think what we'll do is make sure that we ask for a weekly posting on Posty Post, on Point Interface, and then one of us will be responsible to ensure that it's posted weekly on Nextdoor, so that people don't miss it and can sign up.
So Patrick, do you need anything else from us to get this in All Points Bulletin? No.
Let's see, next is the WTA van, PRCAC. Do you want to go through all of these letters you have?
Sure. Okay, so I sit on the CTAG, the Community Transportation Advisory Group for Whatcom County, trying to represent Point Roberts there. The last meeting, this is quarterly meeting, was January 31st. And usually Maureen McCarthy from the WTA is there to represent the WTA, and she's been on point for our issues. Just FYI, she's no longer going to be part of the CTAG, but she'd still be responsible for Point Roberts issues. So I did follow up with her and asked her what the status of the WTA van service that used to be provided to Point Roberts, which got discontinued sometime during the COVID days. what the status of that is. Let me read the reply first from Maureen. Okay, so here again, I confirmed with Les, we are still waiting to learn whether Whatcom County has found a community organization willing and able to operate a WTA donated van. If an agreement comes together between the county and a community organization, WTA would be happy to donate a van for this community use. Reviving zone service to Point Roberts is not something we are considering for a number of reasons. So I followed up based on that response to see who actually was working with Point Roberts community members and who have they worked with. And Maureen pointed me to Jed. And Jed then sent me a response, a 5-point response. So let me read that because I think it is important to understand where the county is right now on this issue. So here's a summary of our conclusions after discussions which occurred over the past year. I'm quoting Jed now. Number one, there is not sufficient demand to warrant having a WTA staffed vehicle provide services between locations on Point Roberts. Number two, there's potentially some demand to take people from Point Roberts to points in Canada for various needs, but for administrative and legal reasons, WTA cannot operate as a transit operator in Canada. For example, WTA would not be able to run a service from Point Roberts into Tawasin. Number three, there's a limited demand for shuttling people between Point Roberts and the mainland, and the demand is spread out across the calendar, different days of the week, times of day, and across the county, Blaine, Ferndale, Bellingham. It's difficult to identify a service regime that would make sense for getting people to and from Point Roberts. Number four, Circle of Care has a vehicle and is providing shuttle services that serve the most needy and are responsive to individual needs, example, specific appointments. We do not believe that we should provide something that duplicates this. Number five, the idea of having a service primarily aimed at tourists, helping them get from marina, various businesses and county parks, was put forward by representatives of the Chamber of Commerce, but they later concluded they would be unable to staff and operate such a service even if WTA was able to find a van to donate for this purpose. It follows that if there's no sensible way for WTA to provide a service specifically for the residents of Point Roberts, we should examine whether it is justified to continue collecting the associated sales tax in Point Roberts. I think that's the main highlights there. So I know that was quite a bit, but I just first of all wanted to update everybody on the committee and the community about the current status in finding that replacement van service. And then secondly, I think this would be a good time to get the input from the community on what is the priority of such a van service. How many people would like to see it resumed? What would be the parameters around it? So we can sort of better represent the needs of the community with the county and the WTA.
Okay, I'm sure Anel
feedback?
has something to say about this.
Yeah, Prakash, I'm sure you've provided us with all the information that Jed and Maureen provided you. I'm just really curious with whom they consulted here in the community to determine that there was not sufficient demand. How did they come to that conclusion? And they certainly didn't consult with Circle of Care to find out what we're doing and what our experience has been. So I'm curious how they gathered the information with which to come to those conclusions.
Your guess is as good as mine,
Yeah.
This was discussed a little bit at the taxpayers meeting the other night, and I did note something interesting and then started to look up a few things.
Mhm.
There's one area that I have found so far that isn't part of the WTA taxing authority for sales tax. They just use a different code. Instead of 3737 or 3700. So that being said, it would just change our sales tax rate. And this could be looked at two ways. Someone had suggested that, well, maybe we see if we can get what we would be sending to WTA, you know, in Point Roberts. Whether or not that would be possible, I don't know. But I look at it too, that it's been brought up many times. Point Roberts asking for a portion of the sales tax that goes to Whatcom County. And Sat Paul Sadhu said, yeah, that would be a great idea if we could figure out how much that was. Well, if we came out of that taxing code of 3737, we're just in 3700, they would actually know what it is because they historically know what the other one zip code contributes to it. So that would be something I think we need to discuss with the community on where we would like to go forward and how to. It's a lot of money, by the way.
Yeah, so in other words, there could be some advantage to our not having a WTA ban in as much as identifying, causing the county to designate.
So our tax rate is 8.6%. The one area that I did find that was not part of it, their tax rate is just 8%. So it's 0.6%, which may not sound like a lot, but it adds up really quickly. So,
Yeah.
again,
My concern, Allison and rest of the committee members, you know, it's somewhat of a slippery slope in my mind for county, you know, service providers of various kinds, WTA being one of them, to say, oh, it's too difficult to service Point Roberts, and then kind of wash their hands off of us and say, yeah, and if you want to stop paying the tax, we'll support you. I mean, that's not the relationship that other communities have with the county. So I don't know why, you know, we should put up with that, to put it bluntly, in my mind.
in a sense, I can understand, just having been around here since 1979. Oh gosh, I'm aging myself. That it is very different to do.
Sure.
And I bet basically I'd want to look at the benefit ratio to the community between what could we have via a bus service and what would that do for the community and at what level it could be done versus how much would that sales tax amount be to benefit the community in another way, or even in the same way, in a better way.
Yeah, no, that 100% agree there. Like, if we could use the same money to provide a service a different way, I think I'm all for exploring those opportunities. If the, you know, as Jed's email said, if the direction they're going is like, we cannot do much and the only option left is excuse Point Roberts from the sales tax, that seems like, you know, just washing their hands off of Point Roberts, right? Which I'm not sure is the right thing to
Yeah,
do.
I think the only way I would do it would be to say, okay, well, if you can't service us, whatever that difference is of sales tax, we want it
Right.
to be able to provide for ourselves.
Yeah, that would give us a perhaps salary for driver and maintenance and so forth.
Right?
Yeah, and insurance and all of the company expenses, and then we could run it here and to the mainland.
Yep.
Yeah, no, totally agree. No, it's not a walk away and we get nothing.
Right.
But again, I think that's something though that we'd have to delve into to see what those costs and such were and And again, talk to the community if it's, how they want to approach it.
So I don't know if folks in the meeting here have any feedback. I can certainly design and send out a short survey if that would help, just so we have some quantitative data.
I think that would be really great, Prakash, to create a survey that ask the community. The challenge with that is so many of the people who would actually use the service are not necessarily computer savvy or inclined to use the computer in order to give us that information, but it's better, it would be better than nothing.
Yeah, well, we can make the same survey available like in paper form at the
Paper form.
marketplace or other places,
At the library and
Yeah.
marketplace and here during senior
Yeah.
lunches and so forth. Yes, excellent.
Does anyone, Bennett, I saw you unmuted yourself. Did you have something?
Yeah, just a quick question. In order to use that tax, wouldn't it make sense to create a local transit authority that's an elected body here and have total control over that tax?
It would have to be something like that, Bennett. We would actually have to have our
Yeah,
own.
that's-
But that would
it
be
would
something
make
that,
Yeah, it would make a lot of sense. That's all I was commenting on.
yeah.
Then
Yeah.
we would have a conflict. We would have two PRTAs.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Sure.
What a great problem to have.
Okay, I forgot to write a note. Did we have something else I needed to put on?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
Here it is.
okay. So this is regarding the TBD fund.
Right.
So.
That was the attachment to Seth Paul's email.
Okay, but
um,
that's related, but somewhat of a distinct issue. So before we move to that,
Yeah,
can we close this? So the next
yes,
step is for me to draft a survey. I'll circulate it with the committee members and then send that out to the community, both online, and we'll find ways to do it offline as well.
yeah, because even if you can, once you send it to us and I have all the questions, I have no problem. I have a laser printer printing up a bunch of copies and bringing them down here for seniors lunch and dropping some off at the library with Rose and then coming back and picking them up.
Okay, great. Sounds good.
Okay, so moving on to the memorandum regarding the TBD fund.
Does everybody in our audience know what the TBD fund is? Anybody needs some clarification?
Yes, quick review it. Yes, thank you.
So the TBD fund is the benefit district, which is the gas tax. Which Point Roberts gas stations pay that goes into a fund that is strictly for the use of Point Roberts.
Transportation,
Transportation benefit district.
yes, transportation matters, having to do with roads and roadways only, solely and only.
So the executive had stated that he was going to try and find a way for a variation of us being able to spend the money in different ways, so it wasn't as limited. And had mentioned that, it was going to require a change of the 18th Amendment of the Washington State Constitution, which it actually doesn't. It's actually just a change to the RCW, which is he's being corrected on. But my concern is, though, the question that we're presented is whether the Point Roberts Transportation Benefit District could be dissolved and what would the process be? Because one of the options that St. Paul had was that it just goes straight to the county coffers and that the county then delegates, which would lose Point Roberts our ability to have a say in how those funds are spent. What becomes of the unexpended tax revenues collected by the district? And do the unexpended tax revenues of the dissolved district remain restricted under state law. Currently, there's about $1.2 million in the fund last time I checked. The answers from the county attorney was assuming the political will exists, the county council can adopt an ordinance dissolving the district. Unexpended tax revenues will be dispersed to the county, who will assume responsibility for ensuring the funds are spent on transportation or road projects in Point Roberts. And yes, the tax revenue collected by the district and dispersed to the county following the district's dissolution is subject to the restriction of RCW 82.47, and the funds may only be spent on street maintenance and construction road projects. I have my own personal, I do not want the TBD fund. I do not want that district dissolved.
Say more.
We lose then the ability to say how the money is spent.
Yeah.
It becomes the county's money to spend at their will. Yes, it has to be spent in Point Roberts, but they could decide they want to repave
What they
a road, and it's going to be $1 million. Well, rather than it coming out of the road fund, they're just gonna take it out of TBD because it's a Point Roberts road.
Mhm.
The idea between those funds was for projects that, special projects that people in Point Roberts, wanted.
Somebody else will make it into a special.
So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know how everyone else feels, but I think that, we need to, ensure that we let it be known to the executive, that that fund belongs to the people of Point Roberts.
Like Seinfeld said, we're masters of our own domain. I'm sorry, just I had it.
So now the question is, who would like to write that letter? You're shaking your head at me that no, you don't want to.
I'm quite happy to. Have you got your hands full, Mr. Hunter? Or are you,
Not at the
you're
moment.
so good at this.
Yeah, you are.
You are, you
Yes,
have
there
the,
is.
you have the government experience that, you know, I can be politically correct, but I can also, you know, not be. And I would prefer it be as,
Well,
politically correct and unemotional as possible. And
then it can't be me that
when
writes
it,
it.
yeah, when it comes to some of these things with Point Roberts, I can't.
You want to, because, you know, I'm from the school of roses and rose.
Yeah,
And you're from the school of, well, let me explain to you how the rose. You know, how
Okay.
we get to the
so
rose.
I will make a motion that,
I'd be delighted.
Brian will, write up a letter.
Okay,
Saying that, you know, at least as far as
got it.
we are concerned, that the
Yeah.
Transportation Benefit District, should not be dissolved, and that we just continue to work on finding projects.
Right. The last I recall, there's something about the county attorney was going to check to see if the Transportation Benefit District money could be used in other ways than they told us previously, where they told us, no, you couldn't get there from here.
So there is a follow-up, in 2014. We did work with our, or Mark and a few other people did, I wasn't involved, with our district representatives and such in Washington State. And they actually requested a change to RCW 82. So
Oh, okay, got it.
that we could again approach
Mhm.
our representatives and try and push for that again with just, it doesn't even have to be altered language that is specific to Point Roberts. It could just have some more clarity,
Right.
because it is very, it's vague, and it depends on who wants to interpret it. Because depending on what side you're on, like Public Works, interprets a construction project includes engineering, because you can't have a construction project unless you have engineering, because it's state law requires you to have engineering before you can have construction.
Right.
So they assume it's part and parcel of it, but somebody else can look at it and say, no, that's not included. So even if it's just clarifying the RCW, the language in the RCW,
And you're talking about RCW 82.47.
82.47. So
Carlson, I
that
have a
would be my
question.
suggestion.
Okay.
Yes, for Kalash?
Yeah, do we have any idea how much the county actually spends on road maintenance out of its own budget on Point Roberts per year?
Not really.
Are there any wild guesses?
It varies. So we didn't have, our roads are supposed to be resurfaced every 7 years. Our roads didn't get resurfaced for 15 years. You know, I don't know, they come and do stuff here and there.
But does road maintenance, Prakash, I don't know, I guess the question to either one of you. Does this include also plowing?
Plowing is considered road maintenance.
Road maintenance, plowing, and how about cutting of the,
Cutting of the grass.
cutting of the
yeah,
grass?
all of that,
There's $1 million.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, I guess where I'm going with this is, I saw Mark's latest email that you forwarded, Allison.
Mhm.
Seems like, okay, maybe it's not a state constitution issue, but it's still something that maybe the legislature has to do to allow other uses of funds.
Yeah,
for
it's an
this.
amendment to the RCW.
Yeah,
Yeah, so, okay, you know, we can push for that, but that'll still take some time. In the meantime, is it possible that, for example, the county uses these funds to do all Point Roberts Road maintenance and then frees up a similar amount from their own funds, which then don't have all these restrictions that the RCW, you know, imposes?
Well, so one of the reasons why I also don't want them to touch the fund for cash is once the stormwater engineering master plan is done and they come to us with, here's everything that needs to be done, here's the projects that are in the most priority and the budgets.
Yeah,
Whatcom County is most likely gonna say, we don't have the money to do these 3 priority ones. But
Yeah.
we could say, well, we wanna take money out of TBD. Because it's allowed to be done for the actual construction.
okay, I mean, if that was the use, then at least that would make sense.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if it's just sitting there indefinitely and we're just in a gridlock, you know.
No, so like, for example, say they come back and there's 3 projects that need to be done and each are gonna cost a few $100,000. You know, Whatcom County may say, well, out of the road fund, we only have enough to do one of the projects. We could say, well, then can we use TBD funds? We can say, hey, we wanna use TBD funds to get these other 2 done. And it's a valid use of the TBD fund per the attorney. Because it's actually for the construction.
or you have them, fund the other,
Yeah,
and then
we pick up the difference.
we pick up the difference, which would make sense, and
Yeah.
especially if some of these work projects that are gonna be for drainage might include doing something to roads.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Right, I mean, that logic says, you know, what you're gonna do is, it's all gonna be related to something you could hang the tag, road maintenance on.
Right.
It wouldn't be, it wouldn't even be a stretch, you know, like.
No, yeah, I don't think it would be at all, because they're impervious surfaces.
And that's
water.
exactly what it is, so it's
Yeah.
drainage comes from the impervious surfaces.
yeah,
And then you could kind of ask them, hey, listen, look, if we really have to use road funds and we don't want to go into some crazy tango about whether we can use it based on the words, just you pay for these and we'll pay for these, and we,
yeah. Well, and that's what was verified when the
Yeah,
attorney
and we-
came back and said we couldn't use it for engineering.
engineering, but
He says, but we could use it once the engineering is done to actually complete some of the work.
and that's the point, is find the ones that you can fund,
Yes,
the state can fund, and then find the ones that, okay, we'll pick up the difference,
yeah.
and you leave the tip, okay? So
There's a
there it
comment
is.
from Michael Rosser,
Hmm,
hand raised. Sorry.
no, I can't. Actually, here, sorry, I can't. Michael,
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, just in reference to how much money the county spends for Point Roberts roads. I don't know that exact number, but having spoken with the roads people, they have said that Point Roberts uses far less per capita than other areas because we have no highways and no bridges, which are the big money sucks for roads.
Mhm.
So in a sense, this road fund that we've been taxing ourselves for, we're already paying for something that we're not getting, in that we don't get the same level of per capita income from per capita road funds that others do. So it's always seemed a bit silly to have this tax on ourselves to pay for something that we're already overpaying for. There are things that we could probably think of to do with it. We did spend money with that to put a roadside trail along Benson, but of course, really, it's just a shoulder, and we got really no value from it. It's not a roadside trail. They just did our shoulder. Anyway, so I can think of good things to use that money for, but I know that's not part of the discussion right now, so I'll hold my tongue.
And who else? So, okay, so Brian, you're going to go ahead and draft that letter for us in response,
Right,
to ensure that we,
bring that to our next meeting.
and I think then I will reach out to, Alicia. I will reach out to, oh geez. Is it Tim? Our other new representative, why am I having a blank? Anyway, I'll reach out to them, I have their emails.
Okay.
And I'll see if I can give Sharon a call as well, as our senator, to see if she can assist with that as well. So now we are to further public comment. If anyone has any questions about anything that we have discussed, if you'd like to bring up something that you would like us to discuss, or even if you just have any questions. I know there had been a few people who were having questions about zoning rules, types of zoning in Point Roberts. I'd be happy to answer any of those questions either tonight, or feel free to contact me if you have any questions. But does anybody have anything else? Elizabeth?
Good evening. I just got home. Okay, so I'm wondering, can we put some kind of a flashing sign on Tyee like they do in Tawasin? If you're driving too fast, it clocks your speed. I witnessed a car in front of me hit a deer on Tyee. The deer fell into the water-filled ditch. It was struggling to get out. I rushed to the border thinking that they could come and shoot it. They said it's not their jurisdiction. Phoned the fire chief. He said he couldn't do it either, but he did manage to get a hold of the sheriff, who luckily had not left the point yet, and he came and shot the deer. I was just so sick from that whole experience. Can we do something? Can we have like a little flashing sign? You know, all this tax money, maybe that's what we should put up. One on Tyee, one on Benson, one on APA, clocking people how fast they're going, and just saying, you know, deer crossing or something. It was so sad. This deer was like maybe 3 years old, and the back legs didn't work. It was kind of drowning in the ditch. It was just so traumatic. When I think about it, I want to be sick again. We've got to do something.
Whatcom County Public Works, prior to COVID, have brought those down a couple of times. I only ever saw one. I saw one on Tyee and one on Gulf.
Could we keep them
pretty-
permanently?
It's
Like-
not, they're actually very expensive. So it's something that they don't leave up permanently. They put them up in different areas. They work with the sheriff's department, and high traffic areas usually, or areas in which, you know, the sheriff's department deems that they're finding a lot of people speeding. And they'll put them there and they leave them for a while, because then people see that they're speeding because it's flashing at them, and then people slow down for a while. It's usually good for a bit, and then they move them to another location. They are solar powered. That would be something that you'd have to, you know, be a request to Public Works and the Whatcom County Sheriff's Department. To possibly, you know, see if we can have one put here for this spring, summer, as people are returning to the point.
Didn't we have a conversation about installing rumble strips in front of the stop signs? And make that request?
Well, so the stop sign issue and the rumple strip idea and everything, that was to stop people from driving through the stop signs, not stopping them from speeding. And what Elizabeth's talking about is actually getting
Yes.
people to reduce their speed,
Yes,
which I find
both
that
need to be done.
the main area I find that is an issue is Tyee.
Yeah.
I don't find it as much.
Boundary Bay Road,
on the side.
trust me,
But,
Boundary Bay Road.
You know, Elizabeth, that
ATM.
would actually be, you know, my suggestion is, especially since the sheriff had to come out.
Yeah.
And assist tonight, is, maybe have a conversation with him to see if he could. Because if he requests one, it goes through faster than if Joe Blow or community member calls. But if you can talk to the sheriff, if he personally requests one for Point Roberts.
Well, either that or something about deer, like signs for deer, because had he not been there, for another sheriff to come from Bellingham, it would have taken 2 hours. And I wish everybody could have seen how that deer was suffering. It was so inhumane. I actually started stopping people on the Tyee with US plates to see if they had a gun in the car to shoot the deer, but nobody did. They said, oh, I got one at home, and yeah, well, you know, I have to go get it, blah, blah, blah. But imagine if the sheriff wasn't here, that poor deer would have suffered. It was suffering anyway. I don't know, we should do something like deer signs, deer crossing.
Deer crossing signs, we have them on Tyee, then we have
There's
animal
one,
crossing
yeah.
sign.
And then there's the wildlife corridor, maybe we can
Yeah.
do more of
Those
those.
signs don't make people slow down. All people do is they might notice the sign, but it doesn't actually prevent them slowing down. I think having it even just temporarily for the spring or summer, that sign that actually flashes at you that says you're speeding would be.
Okay, I will follow up with the sheriff. And then my other question is, I don't know that much about the law down here, but can people get fined for hitting a deer? They do in the Kootenays.
No,
No? Well, we should, yeah.
If herds of deer don't get culled, deer are gonna get hit by cars. The unfortunate part is sheriff is the only one that can shoot that deer. And that's a PRCAC thing. We don't have a sheriff here. So hopefully they'll be working on that as well.
Okay, thank you. I will contact the sheriff and see if he can get that speeding thing going.
Elizabeth,
Yeah.
please post your experience on Nextdoor and write a letter to the editor. Every voice that pipes up that talks to people about slowing down and paying attention and making the assumption that a deer or a child or a cyclist is going to be popping out in front of them.
I tell you, that's gonna happen next. That will be the next thing. Somebody will get hit or run over, and then something will happen. In the meantime, it's the same old, same old. It's quite frustrating, but I'll do what Ali suggested.
I just posted a link on the chat. Seems like even a permanent sign is somewhere less than 10K. Maybe this is a good use of TBD funds.
Yeah. Thank you. By the way, I like your beard. It looks very becoming.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna mute now.
Speaking of chats, this is Lee.
Yes.
And cannot reach everybody on, is that run by the Parks Department?
Yes,
Can it be corrected? Because I'm not able to read Parkeisha's chat.
So the way the Parks Department account works is any chat that comes through only comes to the host. It doesn't go out to everyone.
And why is that?
I don't know.
I
It's-
do.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Okay.
Because at a parks meeting, a number of months ago.
Yeah.
One of the attendees posted porn in the chat column. And so the reaction on the part of the parks at the time was to make that decision. I am not necessarily in concurrence with that, but that's what the Parks Department decided. And they're the ones with the license and they get to call the shots. So if you don't like that, you have to go to the Parks Department and ask them to change it.
Mr. Bill.
And Bill is on the parks.
So here's what we'll do, and we also have Catherine here. Right, hi Catherine. So Kathleen, I'm sorry, Kathleen, so I'll bring this up as an agenda item. It's as simple as that, okay?
Okay,
So consider it on the agenda, and next time we do it, I talk to Mitch. We'll put it on the agenda, and
Perfect.
we'll figure out, see, I'm a little old school in that if you do that, then you will be banned until the cows come home. And you don't, and that's not an abridgment of your First Amendment rights. There's something called in this world decorum and boorish behavior and that kind of nonsense. And we seem to get away with it nowadays, and that's gonna stop. So I'm inclined to put the chats out there, expecting adults in the room. And if you're not an adult, you go sit in the corner with a dunce cap on your head. And that's the way it'll work. Okay?
okay, well, thank you.
I honestly haven't seen any proof of that porn. I didn't get any of it, so
You weren't in attendance at the meeting.
Yeah, that's right. You
When it
missed that.
happened.
You missed that. That's
So-
right.
It apparently was distressing enough that some people decided that that was in order. Again, I don't necessarily agree with it, but that was the decision. They have the license, so they'll need to discuss it and
That's right.
change it if
And
that. If
it's-
they're-
Bill's gonna put it on the agenda
It'll be
for
on
the
the
next
agenda.
meeting. Which is the first or second
Agenda
Monday of
is-
the month
agendas can, for the Parks Department, the
for the
agenda
parks.
go on for 2 years. And so I hope it's a quick agenda because hearing from the community is, should be a number one issue. Thank you.
Kimberly,
Yes, I have, in regards to the speed, I did, because I do ride horse here on Point Roberts, and we have people from Ladybug, and there's multiple places around here that horse riding is done more than once a week. And there is a lot of, especially if the border open, a lot of people that are not giving wide speeding. And I did call the sorry, I've been sick. If you can't hear me very well, I'm sorry. And I did call the sheriff's office and down in the Whatcom County and asked about getting those speed things put in. And they're like, well, we don't have that many and blah, 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 blah. And you can tell they never brought them in. So yes, there is a speeding issue. I'm so sorry to hear about the deer. I always am very careful when I'm especially coming home when it's dark. There is definitely a speeding issue on the point during daylight hours, not giving birth to people. And, you know, you've all seen, I'm sure, the posts about the moms walking their kids in the strollers, the bicyclists, those of us on horseback. It's kind of getting dangerous. I'm sorry. We go out with a pack of, 3 to 4 horses, and we have to be very diligent in listening for cars. And it's, luckily our horses are well behaved, but it is, I'm just dreading the day that there's going to be an issue. That's all I'm going to say. So,
Kim, wonder if
Yes.
you'd do me a favor.
yes, ma'am.
When you're out riding your horse, do you have a GoPro?
Yes.
Put your GoPro on while you're riding your horse.
Yeah,
So that we can start documenting some
Okay.
of this, because
Uh-huh.
sometimes when we just say this happened and this is happening and people are speeding or people aren't giving birth or, you know, a wide berth. If we actually have GoPro video
Okay.
of this is me on my horse, my girlfriend on her horse, and look what this person just did. Or someone who's, you know, like I know Pat Grubb and all these people who ride their bikes, Lauren Nielsen and stuff. I'm gonna say, you know what, if you have a GoPro, can you please put it on your helmet and film this stuff? Because if we actually have documentation via film to take to the sheriff's department,
Right.
we're gonna get a lot better response than just us giving, because if we just say it, it makes it easier for them to give us lip service of, well, it's not that bad.
Right. Okay. Yes. Thank you.
I'm
Good
as
idea.
Anyone
guilty.
else? Bennett?
Yes, I want to make a correction. The host of the Zoom conference has total control over the chat and who can participate in the chat.
We do
limited-
now?
Yes, you do. And we
How?
limited it. There's a way to do it. I'm not sure but the host can allow different people to chat and who they can chat
what
with.
is the setting on that?
Well, because when I go to chat, it just tells me show chat previews. And it
Sure.
says only that it only comes to.
I'll find it. I'll find it for you, but from what I understand, the host has control of the chat. And we restricted it because we did restrict it because of the porn, and that was in the hospital district. And actually, we did not want the chat to become part of the regular meeting. People who were addressing the elected boards are supposed to do it in the public meeting where people can see them and hear their voices. Yeah,
It says allow
that's
for
why
the-
that's why.
Yeah, because I'm like in here and I go, it says, you know, that we can chat and everything, but it doesn't. Yeah,
Well, so go back, so whenever you are chatting in the audience, you get to designate whether you are sending it to everyone or just to the host. Or you